Jonathan, I'll let you explain, but thank you ever so much for coming and supporting us. I'll stay up here, and if I do want to jump in with a question, I will, but I'm going to let you free flow.
Okay. Hey all. So there have been some wonderful speakers here. I apologize for not being one of them. I am not a public speaker. I do this maybe once every 2 or 3 years. But I'm going to talk about film investing, and this is something I know a lot about. For some context, just to provide credibility for why I am qualified to speak about this, I am Chief Business Officer at a firm called Film Hedge. We are the second largest film financing group globally for independent movies. Budget ranges $5 to $30 million. In the past 4 years, we've deployed over $200 million across 50 movies. And it's done pretty well for us. We've never lost money on a movie. That said, none of you, if your friends or distant acquaintances come to you with a movie and say, hey, can you put money into it? None of you should do it. You will lose your money. It's a terrible, terrible business unless you know exactly how to structure things, unless you know exactly what you're doing. Even if the movie has some famous celebrity that you're a big fan of, probably you will lose your money. It's that the celebrity threshold, this is like the bare minimum requirement. Every movie, decent movie, has some famous person in it. It turns out there's a lot of famous people out there. To provide some numbers behind that, I believe there's 9,500 movies made in the year 2023. About 500 of them even achieved theatrical release. Of that, only a small percentage achieved profitability. The way we make money on movies is we don't care if they actually make money at the box office. We are completely insulated from that risk. We are paid out before the movie is ever released. So when people come to you and they say, hey, can you put money in a movie? You're taking what's called an equity position in that movie. You are banking on that movie actually doing well. The reason, you might analogize it to angel investing. You guys might have heard of angel investing, where you're kind of investing in a startup. In order to be a successful angel investor, it's the same as being a venture investor. You're basically doing, you have a clear thesis, and then you're investing in 30 to 50 startups. You're assuming most of them, 90+%, are going to lose their money. They're going to go to zero. You're going to lose it. But that the 10% of them that do well are going to make up for the rest. Maybe 1 in 50, 1 in 100 are going to 100x or 1000x, and that makes up for the rest. The problem is that doesn't work in movie investing. The math just doesn't add up, because even if the movie is a hit, maybe you'll make 2 or 3x your investment, and that can't make up for all the losses in the other movies. So it's just a bad investment, period. So how do we do it? Because obviously I wouldn't be in this business if I were in the business of losing money. No one would give me money to do it. For context, we're generally not raising money from we're definitely not raising money from regular individuals. Generally, we're not even raising money from high net worth individuals. Our capital providers are these mega institutions that manage billions and billions of dollars, because we have a set strategy that works, is consistent, is secured, that they understand, they comprehend. Basically, the way we do it is the movies will pre-sell. They'll have these famous actors attached, and they'll pre-sell to buyers, to what are called distributors. These could be theatrical distributors. In France, the most famous one is Canal Plus, for example. I don't know what the big one in the UK is, which, oops, I'm not British. Or streamers, like a Netflix or a Hulu or an Amazon. And they'll say, okay, based on it having Matt Damon in it, and it's a script that we like, we'll agree to pay you $10 million once the movie is ready. And we say, that's great. They cannot back out of that contract, even if the movie is ready. They say, this is an absolute garbage movie. They still have to pay the money. We then have insurance in place, an insurance wrapper that protects us from what's called production risk. Basically, the risk of budget overruns, delays, non-completion, anything that can expose us to not getting paid by that buyer. The movie is delivered, the buyer pays, it pays into a collection account, so the producer can't steal the money, they can't commit fraud. That's another risk, another reason you shouldn't really be investing in this. A lot of fraud happens. And then we are paid out directly from that collection account first, before anyone else. The movie can lose all the money once it's released, but that's the distributor, the buyer, who's exposed to that risk. not us. So there is a way to profitably invest in these movies. For context on the returns, it's actually quite good. The average duration of our loan is 9 months. We yield 22%. So it's been a good business. It's a very good business. Again, if you do it properly, if you structure it properly, everyone I know who has tried this as an individual has lost money, though. So don't do that. That said, it's a fun business. There's and I think people tend to overlook or assume that it's just ultra high risk, ultra gambling. If you are insistent on getting into this, either I'll name our competitor first. Either go to a group like Headgear. They're based here in the UK. They're wonderful. Or go to a group like us. I don't know what their minimums are. Our minimums are $250,000 for investing. I don't know. If there's any questions, maybe you can ask some questions.
So I'm interested though. We had a good chat out there, and when I said I politely declined, and I was thinking back about why I did politely decline, and it was for the reasons you highlighted. It sounded exciting to be investing in the movies, and the returns that were dangled in front were pretty good. But when I started looking at the other side, the risk side of it, I just saw this great big chasm there. But it sounds like you and potentially other firms you mentioned like Headgear have come up with a way to structure it to manage that risk. But I'm actually more interested in the comment you just made around it's a fun business.
Yeah.
So talk me through. Your eyes lit up when you said that. Give us an example of one of the days where you walked away and went, "That was great. That was a fun day for me."
I think it's honestly, okay, so I've done other sorts of what are called trade finance things before this, where you're financing minerals or screwdriver, these random objects. And structurally, what I'm doing is very similar to that.
Yeah.
But the underlying asset, movies, is something that I enjoy. I like movies. I like TV. So one, it's cool that I get to work in an area that I like, but two, because it's something that I think a lot of us connect with. We grew up watching TV, we grew up watching movies. It's actually a really tiny industry. There's a few hundred people that matter, and I get to meet those people. These people I get to work with. I'm in a poker group that's organized by the showrunner from my favorite sitcom as a kid. Yeah. I hung out with the producers of The Matrix, the Avengers, whatever, and it's kind of nice. It's like, I like that thing that you made. That's awesome, and then we just get to hang out and have lunch.
And I bet there's some great stories as well there. A little bit different to a screwdriver manufacturer.
Absolutely. It turns out that making a movie every time is a bit of a miracle. Mm-hmm. It's coordinating a lot of people. Things are constantly going wrong. Yeah. We see the end product, but we don't see the chaos that goes into it. And you do get to go and you get to, see some stunts being done if you want. I usually don't go to set, but I'm allowed. You get to see something blown up. It's fun.
That sounds good. Yeah, I mean, and also people are now making movies about movies being made. I mean, there's one that's just been released about the making of Apocalypse Now, which is a movie I love, but I've heard the stories about how that was made, so I want to see that. So, on that front, some movies just never actually make it across the line for various reasons. Mm-hmm. In your model, what happens then?
So that's I mentioned this insurance wrapper. So it's called a completion bond. Well, there's two levels of insurance: film production insurance and the completion bond. The film production insurance covers most of the random things that would happen in the course of a movie. An actor getting sick, for example, that would be covered by that. Yeah. Anything that's not covered by the FPI is covered by what's called the completion bond, which would make us whole as an investor, principal plus interest. So I think I mentioned this outside. There was a very tragic situation that happened a few years ago. I think people outside the industry sometimes joke about it. We really don't joke about it. Alec Baldwin discharged a weapon on set, striking and killing a director of photography, a very young woman. In that case, we do know the investors of that movie. We were actually presented with the opportunity to finance that movie. We chose not to. The investors were made whole by the insurance. They made money on the movie. The insurance, the movie actually has been released since then because the insurance doesn't really have scruples, let's say, and their job was to try to recoup their losses. So even when things go terribly, terribly wrong, we are insulated from that risk.
Yeah, yeah. So that's an interesting one. So in that model, there, it sounds like the ownership of that movie switched to the insurance company.
Correct.
So the insurance company's paid out this insurance. In return, they've taken ownership and they've decided to publish.
Exactly. That's exactly what happened there.
Okay. And one question I've got is, for me, we were talking. My background's in financial services. At the end of the day, I go home and I had my weekend to relax and unwind with my family. And one of the things I might do is watch a movie. And for me, that's a complete switch off. For you, though, what happens when you're watching movies?
I enjoy them like anyone else.
Yeah.
I actually tend not to watch my own movies, to be honest with you. But as long as it's someone else's movie, I'm happy to enjoy it.
Yeah. And so, but do you find yourself then watching someone else's movie and thinking, well, maybe I guess you're not involved in the production, but I guess, do you sit there thinking, maybe we could have got involved in that, or maybe, I'm glad I didn't?
So there are definitely some where we almost invested and we didn't, where I regret not having done it, where I'm watching it, I'm like, oh, I wish because we get credits on them, we get executive producer credits, and I'm like, oh, this is a really good movie, I wish I had a credit on this one.
Yeah.
There was a horror movie that came out last year that we actually put a bid on. It was the #1 performing horror movie last year, and I'm not the biggest horror person, but the fact that it was the #1 of the year, and they ended up turning us down last minute after we were going to the paperwork. I was like, oh shit, I was going to be the one to get credit on that one.
Oh, damn, missed out.
Yeah.
Okay, and then is there you mentioned not everything you bid on.
Yep.
Do you turn things down on criteria other than finance?
No.
No.
We model it out. We see, okay, the collateral is there, everything is operationally smooth, the insurance is there, and then it's a matter of negotiating the returns on that basis. This, by the way, is another reason why no one here should be investing in movies independently. If it's getting to, like I said, they turned down our money because they went to another financier. If it's a good investment opportunity, there's plenty of folks around who will finance it. The only stuff that makes it to the average person who's not in the industry, who's not a specialist, is the stuff that's been passed on by everyone who specializes in it.
Yeah. And so, so you mentioned if anyone wants to invest, they should be looking at doing it through a firm such as yours.
Yes.
Even then, are there any other red flags that could be going in front of people, or is it just a case of they should be looking at going, right, we want to put money into a fund rather than a particular movie?
Yeah, I would make sure that you understand in the contract clearly what the use of funds is, that it can't be used for operating expenses. It can only be used directly for financing the movies. That way you have your exposure directly to that. Make sure that the fund itself is not doing equity investments in the movies, that it's doing debt investments. The equity is, again, the high-risk side. The debt is the low-risk side.
Great stuff.
And preferably a reputable firm as well.
Yeah. Okay. Phenomenal. Now, I'm not going to go into what happened in the room, but you heard from the husbands here. Going back to the men's session, if you were going to give one thought to the ladies in the room about what we talked about, what was it like being in the room for you?
It was interesting. It was a lot more philosophical than I expected. It was very little business being talked about. It was mostly just talking about life and the challenges we face and what sort of the point is.
Great stuff. Now, before we close, I'm just going to open it to the room in case there's any questions. We'll take questions. Does anyone have a question for Jonathan? Oh, go on. Anyone? Yes, we do. Sorry?
Yeah, if you just get Netflix to agree to buy it, I'll give you the money.
That's the criteria. Any others? Okay, no, we'll close there then. So, Jonathan, thanks ever so much for coming along today. Not just for speaking, but for your participation in the room. But a round of applause for Jonathan.